Hello everyone, welcome to Narayana IAS Academy. My name is Shubham Sagar and in today's daily news analysis we'll be taking 5 articles of Hindu and Indian Express combined. If we talk about the first article of the day, which is on Indian Express page number 12, State Changes in Rape Law. In this particular article, we have also taken one article of Hindu and we have clubbed it together, whether death will act as a deterrent for rape or not. West Bengal, they have passed a bill. Similar kind of bills have been passed in Andhra Pradesh and other states. What has happened to those bills? Where does criminal law and related provisions lie? Does it lie in state list, union list or concurrent list? Will President also need to give an assent to the West Bengal proposed bill? That is Aparajita bill. All these talks will be happening in the first article. If we talk about the second article of the day, which is on Hindu page number 1, Himachal Pradesh passes bill denying pension to legislator who defect. Here we'll be talking about 10th schedule, anti-defection law. UPSC, one of hotshot topic, this particular topic is, that is 10th schedule, and we'll be talking about it. Himachal Pradesh is in news currently because of the raising the age of women from 18 to 21. Again, they are doing something revolutionary. So we'll have a detailed talk on that. If we talk about the third article of the day, which is again on Hindu page number 1, ILO links AI to dip in labor income. Artificial intelligence is leading to dip in labor income. So we'll talk about ILO as an organization. We'll talk about how we can ensure equitable distribution of wealth. All these talks will be done in this particular article. If we talk about the fourth article of the day, which is on Indian Express page number 10, title Upward Tick. So here, World Bank has projected India's growth rate at around 7% and they are very optimistic about India. But there are certain issues which India needs to address if we want to achieve that particular growth trajectory, and we'll be having a discussion on that. If we talk about the last article of the day, which is on Hindu page number 8, gaps between allocation for health outcome in states. So health expenditure, central government is spending money on health, but lot depends on state, lot depends on how state is allocating certain resources. Here we'll be talking about centrally sponsored scheme, central sector scheme. We'll also focus on certain schemes related to health. Once we are done with these 5 articles, we'll solve 5 prelims practice question and 1 means practice question, because as we have discussed earlier, practice makes a man as well as a woman perfect. So let's get started. If we talk about the first article of the day, state changes in rape law. West Bengal is in news. It has been in news from last 20, 30, if not more days. And they have passed a bill, Aparajita 2024 bill. And similar kind of bills have been passed by different states previously, like Disha bill, Shakti bill. There are certain issues related to it. There are certain issues related to Criminal Act. Where does Criminal Act and associated features lie? Does it lie in state list, union list, concurrent list? We have to understand all these issues. Now, this particular bill of West Bengal will go to President for his assent. And if President gives assent to that particular bill, then only it can become an act. So there are complications involved and we have to understand those complications. Now, see, questions related to sexual violence against women has been asked by UPSC, although a little while back, but we have to be ready for such kind of questions because sexual violence against women has been on the increase. We are seeing more and more cases in different parts of the country. So what is the context here? West Bengal Assembly passed the Aparajita Women and the Child Bill 2024, West Bengal Criminal Law Amendment Bill, and stringent provisions are there. Now, the point here is why this particular bill needs President assent. Generally, what happens when there is a state bill, it has to be passed by governor and then it becomes an act. Why do we need President assent, or assent rather? The point here is it is amending different provisions of POCSO, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, then BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, which are central laws. So when you have state law and central law on a concurrent subject, and if state law is contravening or is going against rather the central law, in that scenario, that state law has to get assent of the president. If you remember, in my previous DNA videos, when we have covered Himachal Pradesh marriage bill, which raised the marriageable age of women from 18 to 21, there also the same issue was there. Even in Uniform Civil Code bill related to a particular state, same issue was there. If there are two, like state law and central law is there on a concurrent subject and state law is contradicting central law, in that scenario, that state law has to get President assent, and that is what is happening in this particular Aparajita bill as well. Right. So the bill mandates death penalty for rape cases where the victim dies or is left in a vegetative state. Again, we are studying from UPSC perspective. We should be understanding the meaning of the word vegetative. Vegetative means you are alive, but your brain is not functioning. Many people feel like it's almost equivalent to death when your brain is not functioning. So almost on the verge of death, many people say the vegetative state. So more about the bill. The bill makes death the maximum punishment in all rape cases. There is another issue also, because this particular news has been in Indian Express, has been in Hindu, and if we increase the sentence, let's say from life imprisonment to death, will that reduce rape cases? The answer is no. We have done that, different states has done that, but the result has not been very encouraging. So death, even if you impose death penalty, stringent punishment, strict implementation of the law is the need of the hour. And all these things have to be done rather than just, like many people believe that this is just a knee-jerk reaction. Something has happened, so something has to be done. But we should be aiming or looking at proper implementation of the existing laws. So again, bill amends. Why it has to go to president? You are understanding it now. Because it amends Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, Bharatiya Nyaya Suraksha Sanhita. All these are central laws. And the Protection of Children Against Sexual Offences Act. What we have discussed earlier, if there are two laws, state law and central law on a concurrent subject, then, and if state law is contradicting central law, it has to go to president for his assent. Then only it can become an act, otherwise it will be null and void. So whether Aparajita bill will actually become an act or not, we don't know. And you can understand what will be the fate of Aparajita bill from what happened with similar such bills passed by other states. So stay tuned. Special Aparajita task forces in each district will investigate rape cases. These are the provisions of the bill. Special courts will handle rape cases on expedited timelines with investigation limited to 21 days. In that, investigation has to complete and trial will be done within 30 days. The bill must be approved by West Bengal governor and then the President of India to become law. Now we are entering into the technicality. Now you also understand why President assent is rather crucial, because this criminal law and criminal procedure are under concurrent list. And both central and state have passed laws on this. And here, these three bills, Aparajita, Disha and Shakti. What are Disha and Shakti bill? We'll read about it in just few moments from now. Aparajita is a bill passed by West Bengal government. They can give you this. Aparajita, Disha, Shakti, they can give you the states and they can tell you to match the following. They amend criminal laws in a way that makes them inconsistent to the original law. So even if you don't know how to pronounce repugnant, you just understand that this is contradicting the original law. How? We'll see this. So state amendments, because there are certain amendments. What are those amendments? We'll see it in the next slide. So state amendments to central laws dealing with subjects in concurrent list that are repugnant or inconsistent to the original law require president assent under Article 254 Clause 2. This we have discussed in the Himachal Pradesh marriage bill as well. Without assent, the law will be null and void. So what were the amendments? You don't need to remember all these amendments. You just have to understand Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita section 64 has been amended rather. Death penalty has been added. Section 66 of BNS again makes death penalty mandatory in cases where rape causes death or vegetative state. Vegetative state, you're alive, but your brain is not functioning. 70 introduces death penalty for gang rape of women over 18. Now, what are the good things about these provisions? So if strict implementation happens, maybe the crime will reduce, but there's a very high probability. We have talked about sexual abuse cases related with women. How sometimes, in many cases, family members or close relatives are involved. So there is a very high probability, according to social experts, that some cases will not be diverged because the provisions are so stringent and so strict that maybe women will not come because the family members are involved and death punishment is too extreme scenario. It can be a too extreme of a scenario. Hope you're understanding what we're discussing here. So acid attacks, the bill removes lighter sentences. Now, in West Bengal, if this Aparajita bill is implemented, if a woman is a victim of acid attack, life imprisonment will be the only punishment, no lighter punishment. POCSO Act, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, it adds death penalty for penetrative sexual assault. So you can see the provisions have become very stringent, but they are amending central laws, and that's why it needs president assent, because both state and central law has been made on a concurrent subject and state law is violating or contradicting rather central laws or amending central laws. So similar bill in other states. Andhra Pradesh, Disha bill, 2019-2020, this bill was passed, introduced death penalty for rape and shorter timeline for trials. Again pending, it's still pending before president. Maharashtra Shakti bill, introduced death penalty for rape and acid attacks, obligations, again similar kind of things you're seeing, again pending presidential approval. So what are you gauging from this? You must have got an idea that what will happen with Aparajita bill. Will it reach the same fate as Disha or Shakti bill? Is it just a knee-jerk reaction? You have to understand. Hope you're understanding this. Hope this Aparajita bill does not get the same dictum or same faith as like Disha or Shakti bill. Hope it gets precedent assent. So what is the conclusion here? The Aparajita bill, like similar laws in other states, aim to impose harsher penalties, including mandatory death sentences for rape and related crimes, while expediting investigations and trials. However, it is pending presidential assent, as are similar laws in Andhra Pradesh and Maharashtra. The moot question, the most important question rather here is, will it get president approval or not? We have to wait and watch. In the meantime, existing laws will have to be properly implemented, and Vishakha guidelines and all these things has to be properly implemented if we want to protect the dignity of our women. If we talk about the second article of the day, Himachal Pradesh is on fire. Few days back, we have talked about Himachal Pradesh when we were talking about raising the age of women from minimum age of women from 18 to 21. Currently, they have passed a bill denying pension to legislators who defect. Again, you can see these are very rebellious kind of bills. How many of them actually becomes an act? That is a question we can ponder upon later. But still, these are very, very good laws with very noble intentions. That's what many political experts says. So what is happening here? We will be talking about 10th schedule, anti-defection law here. And questions related to anti-defection has been asked by UPSC earlier. So what is the context? And here we'll try to go deep into anti-defection law from both pre and mains perspective. When you can be disqualified, if you are an independent member, when you can be disqualified, if you are a nominated member, when can you be disqualified? All these things we have to discuss. Who will be deciding about the disqualification? Whether if the presiding officer is involved here in deciding the disqualification, whether this whole thing is subject to judicial review or not. What is Quixote Holohan case? All these are questions to ponder upon. So many questions can be framed and has been framed related to anti-defection. So state government in Himachal Pradesh, they are on fire. Himachal Pradesh is on fire. Passed a bill aimed at discouraging MLAs from switching parties. The new bill revokes pension of legislators who are disqualified under 10th schedule. And even the legislator who have been disqualified in the past, the bill has provision for that also. It allows the government to recover pensions already drawn by disqualified members. So let's say the disqualified members had drawn, let's say 10 lakh. So they will be asking them to pay back 10 lakh. Give us those 10 lakh. So all these things. Now, Anti-Defection Act. All these things, all these jokes are fine, but we have to focus on the core area of this article. And what is the core area? 10th schedule, anti-defection. Which particular amendment is associated with it? 52nd Amendment Act. During the Prime Ministership of which, like whom, this act was passed? That the answer here is Rajiv Gandhi. Similar kind of questions has been asked earlier, right? So, disqualifications on grounds of defection. When can you be disqualified? Let's say you are a member of parliament or state legislature. If you resign, let's say you have been elected from BJP, you join Congress party, then you can be disqualified. This is one criteria. Voting or abstaining against party direction. Party is telling you to vote for this particular candidate in Rajya Sabha election, etc. And you're not voting according to that norm. Then also you can be disqualified. Let's say you're an independent member. You don't belong to any political party. Then you will be disqualified if you join any political party. Let's say I got elected as an independent member. I joined BJP or Congress or AAP or TMC. Then I will be disqualified. Nominated member, Sachin Tendulkar, Rajya Sabha. So if you're a nominated member, you will be disqualified if you join a political party after 6 months from the date you have taken your seat in the house. If you join any political party, let's say Sachin Tendulkar is a nominated member, he joined any political party, or he was a nominated member, he joined any political party before 6 months, he's fine. After 6 months, he can be disqualified. Right? Exceptions. What are the exceptions when you will not be disqualified, even though you have shifted your alliance from one political party to other? In one scenario, let's say you are Congress and you are a Congress in a particular state, Assam, etc. You have 30 seats and 20 or more leaders of your party has decided to join other party, or you can take any political party here. So if 2/3 or more members merge with another political party, in that scenario, your seat will not go, you will not be disqualified. Understand this. A member will not face disqualification if their original political party merges with another party, provided at least 2/3 of the members of legislative party agree to such a merger. So in a particular state, you have 30 seats, 20 or more. If you people are deciding to join any other political party in that scenario, you will not be disqualified. But say let's say there are 15 members who are merging with other. Then in that case, all 15 will be disqualified. So 2/3 is the criteria. Earlier 1/3 was the criteria, but so many disqualifications or defections rather were happening that this whole criteria was increased from 1/3 to 2/3. About 10th schedule. Role of presiding officer. Who will decide the disqualification? Presiding officer, Speaker of Lok Sabha or state assemblies. Presiding officer decisions. Now earlier it was like it cannot be challenged in court. It is final. But now, via this Quixote Holohan case, it has been ruled that no, judicial review is allowed. this whole disqualification scenario by Speaker of Lok Sabha Legislative Assembly, it is subject to judicial review under Kyoto Olohan case of 1992. Again, the purpose we know, to bring political stability. There is a Hindi quote here, Aya Ram, Gaya Ram, Hey Ram. That means you are continuously switching party, and that is actually not very good. People lose trust in you. The people lose trust in the political party. People lose trust in the whole process when such things happen on a regular scale. So the criticism, but there is a criticism of this anti-defection law as well. Sometimes you have to follow the norm of the party. You have to follow what party says. Sometimes it can happen that I am not agreeing with the party agenda. I can differ. I can have my own personal views, but those own personal views are not catered to here. So that is one of the criticism here. The law has been criticized for giving excessive power to party leadership. I have to always toe the line, and that may or may not be correct. It cannot be or may not be correct in some scenarios. And for undermining legislators' independence. So some argue that it curtails the ability of lawmakers to vote according to their conscience. These lawmakers, they have to always follow party's conscience rather than their own conscience. So that is the point here. So this is a brief summary of anti-defection law, 10 Schedule, 52nd Amendment Act. And again, if you're giving up the membership of political party, we have seen all the scenarios. Independent member, when will they be disqualified? Nominated member, simple member. So all these scenarios we have seen. Earlier, the criteria was if 1/3 or more were defecting, you will not be disqualified. But now, since an amendment in 2003, the minimum number required for a merger is 2/3 of elected members of a party. The law has not been very effective in curbing defection. So what is the conclusion here? The 10th Schedule has been crucial in maintaining party discipline, but continues to generate debate on its effectiveness and potential for misuse in modern Indian politics, where the individual conscience is curtailed by a political party's conscience or not. That is a major question which has been asked when it comes to 10th Schedule or anti-defection law. If we talk about the third article of the day, latest ILO study links AI, artificial intelligence, to dip in labor income. Now the point here is ILO, International Labour Organization. Search for the keywords. Whenever you're looking for search articles, search for the keywords. International Labour Organization is one such keyword. Then artificial intelligence is another such keyword. We are currently living in the era of fourth industrial revolution. If you know about the previous 3 industrial revolution, you can post it in the comment section. What do they refer to? First industrial revolution was associated with what? Second industrial revolution was associated with what? Third industrial revolution was associated with what? And then dip in labor income. So here we'll also talk about something known as SDGs. Sustainable Development Goals. How many total goals are there? How many targets are there? Post it in the comment section. Make it more interactive. The more answers you give, the better you will become. So here we'll talk about 2 major SDGs. One will be dealing with inclusive growth. Other will be dealing with reducing this income inequality. So one will be SDG 8 related to inclusive growth, and then SDG 10 income inequality. All these areas, all these are keywords from which UPSC can frame questions, or they have already framed questions. So ILO question has already been asked. PYQ has already been asked by UPSC. What is the context here? ILO's World Employment and Social Outlook, they have updated and they have highlighted a declining global labor income as we are using more and more AI. We are using, let's say, take an example. A simple example, we are using more and more ChatGPT. So do you think the role of content creator will reduce in future? Because most of the things will be generated by ChatGPT only, AI only. So all these things, according to ILO, yes, there has been a decline in global labor income, and that can create issues when it comes to attaining SDG 8 and SDG 10. So ILO calls for stronger policies to ensure equitable distribution of economic benefits and to mitigate the adverse impacts of AI on inequality. Right? So International Labour Organization, as we are searching for keywords, because this article is more important from pre-perspective rather than, let's say, means perspective. So you should be knowing about ILO. When was it formed? Under which particular treaty? Treaty of Versailles, 1919. Where is the headquarters? Geneva, Switzerland. Geneva, Vienna. These are 2 very famous areas. Vienna is in Austria. Most of the organization, like most of the very famous organization, you will see they are around Geneva or Vienna, Austria. So keep these towns in mind. You can even locate it on the map, European map per se. So they formulate international labor standards, gender equality. They talk about child labor elimination. I'm not talking much about ILO here because in the previous DNA, we have talked about ILO. long time back, not I think 20, 30 days back, we have talked about ILO. Here the major focus is on SDG 8, SDG 10. Here the major focus is on AI. Here the major focus is on income inequality and how we should be addressing it. So again, ILO awarded Nobel Peace Prize in 1969. Again, here, ILO, these are value additions. These are VAs. So they are aiming to achieve, or they will play a crucial role when we talk about ILO here in achieving SDG 8 and SDG 10. Please remember all the 17 goals. You don't have to remember 169 targets associated with SDGs. Just tell me in the comment section, we have to achieve these 17 goals or these 17 goals by which particular year? Is it 2025, 2020, which has already passed, 2026, 2030, 2027, what year it is, right? So India is a founding member of ILO. Remember this. This is a key phrase here or sub part of the sentence here. And it has ratified 47 conventions, including key ones on child labor and forced labor. And they are collaborating with India on ILO, and India are collaborating on various different attributes like labor rights or improving labor market governance and addressing issues like gender inequality and informal economy. The keywords: ILO, where is the headquarter? Which treaty was responsible for formulation of ILO? SDG 8, SDG 10 deals with what? All these are important points. So impact of AI on labor markets. So again, as we are talking about the report, they're saying that AI is a significant factor behind the decline in labor income, and they have reduced the share of income. Even the COVID has exacerbated the impact. That's what this report is also talking about. And it is affecting middle class people more. People like we and you more. Not the people who are at the upper echelon, but the people who are in the middle echelon or lower middle class. We are being impacted the most. Without adequate policies to protect workers, the benefit of AI risk being concentrated among capital owners, exacerbating wage stagnation and job insecurity. So there has to be equitable distribution. There has to be certain things done by different groups, labor groups, FICCI, ASSOCHAM. They need to think about middle class people, because according to different surveys, be it Oxfam survey or Thomas Piketty, rich are getting richer and poor are getting poorer. And this whole AI thing is not helping to bridge the gap. So global inequality trends, the report sheds light on global trend of rising inequality. As we have discussed, COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated, intensified this whole issue. Wealth has increasingly concentrated among the top income groups, as has been reiterated by Oxfam as well as Thomas Piketty and Lucas Chancel. They have also given some figures. So according to this, all these things, what they are reflecting, what they are suggesting, that it will be very harder for us to achieve SDG 10, which aims to reduce inequality. So hope you're understanding the keywords here, because I'm continuously reiterating it. So what should be done? There should be freedom of association. The labor groups, they should come together. They should talk about collective bargaining, and there can be a certain amount of unemployment allowance. All these things can be done by different governments. It's already done. These unemployment allowance, they are already been done in Scandinavian and Nordic countries to a certain extent. Job creation, upskilling workers. Sometimes, we cannot, there are certain people who feel like they will not upgrade their work or upskill their work rather. We have to continuously upgrade ourselves, upskill ourselves. That is the need of the hour, because we are living in the age of 4th Industrial Revolution. Please remember these SDG 8 and SDG 10. What do they cater to? Because they are in news, they can be asked by UPSC. There's a very high probability. If we talk about the fourth article of the day, an upward tick. So here we'll talk about World Bank. What is their projection about India's growth forecast? And these are numbers. And we also know UPSC sometimes do ask about numbers, but more than the numbers, here what is very important is World Bank Group. What is the difference between World Bank and World Bank Group? How many organizations come under World Bank? Let's say 2. And how many comes under World Bank Group? 5. Is World Bank a part of World Bank Group? Yes. What are those organizations which come under World Bank? That is IBRD and IDA. So all these are very small intricate things which most of the people don't know about. So we should be knowing about it, right? So let's talk about this article. Questions related to World Bank and their publications have been asked by UPSC earlier. Global Economic Prospect. Who publishes it? World Bank publishes it. If you move on to the second, the context here, what is the context of this article? The World Bank is very optimistic about India, and they have revised India's economic growth forecast from 6.6% to 7%, because they are saying that the election has gone. Now more government expenditure will be done, more private consumption will be happening, and they're very optimistic about India, both in the short term and in the long term. But there are certain challenges also which they have pointed when it comes to long-term growth of India. We'll talk about that. So citing improved economic performance and strong private consumption. This brings attention to both short-term optimism and long-term structural challenges. What are those long-term structural challenges and what are the optimistic things related when we talk about the short-term measures? So if we talk about the short-term optimism, rebound in private consumption, rural consumption has grown and that thing has been taken up by World Bank, and they are saying that this particular growth in rural consumption will reflect in India's growth in GDP as well. So if we talk about the second term or related to short-term optimism, that is strong agricultural output. We had a El Nino year El Nino happened last year, which led to decline in agricultural productivity. And the chances are this will be a non-El Nino year. And that will lead to improvement in monsoon, improvement in irrigation, all these things, because most of our agriculture is rain-fed agriculture. So this will strengthen. Non-El Nino year will strengthen farm incomes, contributing to rural prosperity and supporting short-term growth. If we talk about government expenditure, when there was election, there was restriction on government, how much they can spend under election commission model code of conduct rather. So now the elections have gone. So public spending will increase. Public spending on infrastructure and welfare programs continues to support growth, though investment growth is expected to slow slightly in the coming months. Then positive growth projections. Not only World Bank, even IMF, ADB, that is Asian Development Bank. If you know the headquarter of ADB, you can write it in the comment section. All of them are very optimistic about India's growth trajectory. But there are certain challenges. Weak export competitiveness. Even now, turmoil is going on in Bangladesh, but still Bangladesh and Vietnam, developed countries are favoring these smaller countries when it comes to manufacturing things, right? High tariffs and protectionism. So we, generally when Indian goods are getting exported to other countries, we are witnessing tariffs. And because of these tariff barriers and protectionist policies, our goods are not that lucrative in outer market. And that is also limiting India's participation in global value chains. Skill gaps. You must have heard about many companies talking about employability and how there is a skill gap here. Rote learning is the norm rather than an exception. ASER, Annual Status of Education report by NGO Pratham, they also talk about how we need to improve skilling. Upskilling is the need of the hour rather than rote learning. All these things have to be taken care of in the long term. Over-reliance on consumption. We talk about private consumption when we are talking about short-term optimism, but we shouldn't be relying too much on private consumption, right? And slow pace of reforms, rigid labor laws, regulatory inefficiencies, too many hierarchies are there. So all these things are in a way or will in a way impede India's economic growth, and India will not grow as fast as it would have if these issues were not there. So now, one important aspect here, World Bank and World Bank Group. Just remember, World Bank are these two organizations, IBRD and IDA, that is World Bank. And all these 5 organizations, they are World Bank Group. So please don't make mistake here. Many people make mistake here. India is not a member of ICSID. ICSID is a part of World Bank Group, but it is not a part of World Bank. And do World Bank and World Bank Group have headquarters in the same city? If yes, post it in the comment section. What is that city? Is it in US or is it some non-US city? So you can answer it in the comment section. If we talk about the last article of the day, gaps between allocations for health and outcomes in states. So what we have to understand here, we have to understand, again, this article we are reading from prelims perspective. Out-of-pocket expenditure, what does it mean? What does OP means? How much India is spending when it comes to GDP? Let's say India's GDP is 100 rupees. How much we are spending in health, including, let's say, public expenditure and OP? How much other BRICS countries are spending? Because we have to do a comparative analysis. All these things, PM Jan Arogya Yojana, these are important schemes. Then there will be certain schemes related to infrastructure. How we are lagging behind when it comes to health infrastructure. How we are lagging behind when it comes to manpower related to health. All these facts and figures are important because again, we are reading this article from prelims perspective. So previous year questions related to National Rural Health Mission. Health is a very important component. Even in mains, GS paper 2, health matters a lot. Health is there along with education. Again, a question for you. SDG 8 and 10 we have talked about in this particular DNA. Tell me, health and education, which SDGs are related with health and education respectively. So the article discusses the gap between budget allocation for health and actual outcomes rather achieved in various Indian states. Why is this happening? Because health is a state subject. State government or central government rather will assign some money, some budget, some schemes will be there. But there are two kind of schemes, two major broad kind of schemes: centrally sponsored scheme, central sector scheme. Central sector scheme, all contribution, 100% money will be given by center. But when we talk about PM Jan Arogya Yojana and these kind of schemes, they are centrally sponsored scheme. Some amount of money will be given by center, let's say 60 rupees, 40 rupees will be contributed by states. And it's not constant. For let's say hilly areas, northeastern states, it will be 90-10. It varies. But hope you're understanding. Centrally sponsored scheme, not all money will be given by center. Central sector scheme, all money will be given by center. But implementation, more or less when it comes to health related scheme, is done by state. And that's why there is a lag, there is a gap. There is a gap in infrastructure, there is a gap in manpower, and all these things this article is talking about. Indian healthcare system or healthcare system includes both public and private facility, serving over 1.3 billion people. Again, these are factual figures. Focus here. What are the issues? Inadequate funding, workforce shortages. These will help you in writing a better means answer also. But now, from pre-perspective, they can give you a comparative analysis that which country spend the least like in healthcare out of these BRICS countries, or second least. So you have to understand, India, you can guess that out of BRICS countries, that is Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, India is spending the least. But you can see from this data, nobody can guess. I mean, it's very hard to guess that China is the second least, like the country which is spending the second least amount of money here. So because generally we believe that China is so big, China is so developing so fast that China will be spending a lot, but that is not the case. If out of 100 rupees, we are spending 3 rupee 60 paise, China is spending 5 rupees on health. Russia 5.3. Russia is doing better than China, which is actually a very fascinating figure if you think about it. Russia-Ukraine war, Russia is already having so many issues. South Africa 8.1 and Brazil is leading by 9.2%. And in Brazil currently a war is going on between like not simple and like war per se, but X and Brazil are fighting. Twitter, the formerly known Twitter, and Brazil are fighting. So many things are going on in Brazil. Brazil is also called as a closed economy. It's a country which is very close to being called a closed economy. No country in the world is closed economy, but Brazil is very close example of a closed economy. If you know the definition of closed economy, please post it in the comment section. So, challenges facing India's healthcare system. Allocation and implementation challenges. Union budget allocates significant funds. The actual implementation and utilization at the state level have been inadequate. Health is anyway a state subject. Plus, centrally sponsored scheme, central sector scheme, when some amount of money is contributed by states, they are implementing it in their own way. Then, there were issues related to infrastructure. Please understand, out-of-pocket expenditure. What is the meaning here? There was a word here, out-of-pocket expenditure. So, out-of-pocket expenditure means some money will be provided by, let's say, state or center. PM Jan Arogya Yojana, 5 lakh rupees, they will be giving you for secondary and tertiary healthcare services. Now, here again, there are terms. Primary healthcare services, secondary healthcare services, tertiary healthcare services. Let's say I catches cold and my nose is filled with butter or ghee, whatever you want to call it. So I go to a doctor. That is my first contact where I'm going, and that is my primary healthcare. The first point of contact is my primary healthcare. He will be referring me to, let's say, West Bengal, some hospital in West Bengal. That will be my secondary contact, secondary healthcare. And then let's say that West Bengal hospital refers me to AIIMS Delhi. That will be my tertiary. So PM Jan Arogya Yojana is related to secondary and tertiary care. Hope you're understanding these keywords. Out-of-pocket expenditure means I am spending some amount of money. 5 lakh has been given by PM Jan Arogya Yojana. Out of that 5 lakh, let's say the expenditure is 7 lakhs. So I'm spending 2 lakhs from my own pocket. That is out-of-pocket expenditure. That may or may not be covered by, let's say, my company, health insurance, etc. So out-of-pocket expenditure, the money which is going from my pocket, which may or may not be covered by a third party. So allocation and implementation challenges we are talking about. We are understanding primary, secondary, tertiary healthcare. We are trying to understand OP. We are trying to see where India is at when it comes to BRICS countries related to spending on health. All these things we are talking about here. Please pay attention here. ABHIM, they can ask you the full form. What is it? Ayushman Bharat Health Infrastructure Mission. Infrastructure is lacking. When it comes to primary, secondary, tertiary, everywhere, infrastructure is lacking. To take care of that infrastructure, we have PM ABHIM. It has been renamed. What was the earlier name of PM ABHIM? If you know it, post it in the comment section. Then we have human resource issue also. No doctor wants, or very few doctor will want to work in the rural areas or vulnerable areas, or let's say Naxalite affected areas. So because of that, human resource crunch is also happening, we are witnessing. To address that, we have HRHME, Human Resources for Health and Medical Education. All these schemes aim to strengthen health infrastructure as well as manpower crunch. And even if physical infrastructure is developed, we have to address this manpower crunch, and that's why we have this HRHME. Okay, so these were some schemes we have talked about. Now, major scheme. The one very important scheme which you have to keep in mind is Ayushman Bharat PM Jan Arogya Yojana. Launched in 2018, 5 lakh for secondary and tertiary healthcare, not primary. Hope you understood the difference between primary, secondary and tertiary. Then you have NHP 2017. They can ask you, like NEP 2020, National Education Policy, passed in 2020. NHP passed in which year? 2017. So these are some important terms which you have to keep in mind. Jan Aushadhi scheme related to generic medicine. All these are important schemes which you have to keep in mind. You cannot remember all, but do remember the most important ones. So we have done 5 DNA articles. Now it's time for solving 5 prelims practice question and 1 mains practice question. So again, I have told you earlier also, out of these 5 questions, whatever you're getting correct, please post it in the comment section, whatever your marks is. 3 out of 5, 5, 4 out of 5, 0 out of 5, whatever it is. So ILO tripartite structure. Even if you get this question wrong, don't worry about it. Although we have covered ILO in earlier DNAs as well. Tripartite structure involves, try to use option elimination. Government has to be there. If government has to be there, remove those which does not involve government. Now, government, workers, employers, government, no NGOs and corporation. Which one looks better? It talks about worker, International Labour Organization. So answer has to be it. So if you're understanding, even let's say something comes out of the blue, you have to do option elimination. You have to do intelligent guessing. That will work if you have some idea about a particular topic. Second question related to PM Jan Arogya Yojana. We have talked about it. I have told you that pay specific attention to this particular scheme. This is very important. So centrally sponsored, yes. Not all money is coming from center. So eliminates B. Provides a defined benefit cover 5 lakh. Yes, that is also correct for secondary and tertiary, not primary healthcare. So second is correct. That means eliminate C. You're left with A and D now. Beneficiary identified based on socioeconomic caste census. That is actually a correct information. So you will be left with A and D. Even if you're left with 2 options now, you got the 2 options. You can assume your answer to be correct. Don't worry about it. The answer here is D, 1, 2 and 3. All the options are correct. Third question. Tough question, but you should be getting it right. We have discussed 10th schedule in detail. So valid ground for disqualification under 10th schedule. A member of parliament voluntarily resigns. An independent member joins a political party after the election, or a nominated member joins a political party within 6 months. No, not within 6 months. After 6 months, then he will be disqualified. Within 6 months, he can join. So third is wrong. That means the answer is B, 1 and 2 only. Again, 10th schedule added by 52nd amendment. You can pause me before I tell you the answer. You just look at the question, mark your answer and then unpause me. Presiding officer cannot be challenged. No, it can be challenged. Ki ho to Holohan case. So second is wrong. You're left with A and C, and a member can avoid disqualification. 2/3 merger. That is correct. So C is the answer. Fifth question. Which of the following statement is correct about India's membership in World Bank Group institution? World Bank. How many institutions? World Bank Group. How many institutions? I've told you. So India is not a member of ICSID. Now, you have to post it in the comment section. Is ICSID a part of World Bank or World Bank Group? Which ICSID is a part of what? World Bank or World Bank Group or both? You can post it in the comment section. Means practice question related to Aparajita Women and Child Bill 2024 introduces harsher punishments, including the death penalty, and all these things have been written. Analyze the potential social and legal implications and challenges they may face in implementation. So what will be the social implications? And stringent provisions are there. So it can deter, it can lead to decrease in crimes, right? But it can also lead to underreporting. That's what we have discussed earlier. That maybe, and we have seen when we talk about sexual abuse cases, we talk about POCSO, all these things. We have seen how relatives of women, more or less, sometimes, or in many cases, have been involved. So that those kind of cases can lead to underreporting because the provisions now are very stringent. So all these things you have to talk about. Legal implications. What is happening? This particular bill is contradicting central acts, and this criminal law and related provisions are under concurrent list. So now the bill has to go to president, and if he has give his assent, then only it can become an act. And if he gives his assent, then only it can become an act. So all these things have to be taken care of. So introduction, you can talk about all these things. It proposes stringent penalties, whatever provisions are there, how it is amending BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, POCSO, and all these. Similar laws have been introduced in Andhra and Maharashtra. Then in body, social implications, you will divide it into 2 parts. Social implications, legal implications, deterrent effect. It can, like death penalty serves as a strong deterrent. People will think before committing sexual violence. But will it also lead to false cases? All these things we have to ponder upon, right? Impact on reporting. This is a very interesting analogy. Critics fear that harsher penalties may discourage victims from reporting rape, especially in cases where the perpetrator is a family member. So we have talked about this issue. Victim safety concern. Now, when you are like saying death penalty, in that scenario, currently what is happening? Even if rape is happening, let's say death is not happening. Now, because the perpetrator will fear, he can kill that person. So hope you're understanding. Victim safety is an issue also here. There are concerns that perpetrators, fearing the death penalty, may go to greater lengths to kill or harm victims to avoid detection. All these issues, all these are social implications. Then legal implications, judicial efficacy rather. The bill mandates swift investigation and trials, which if implemented could strengthen the judicial process. But justice delayed is justice denied. Justice hurried is justice buried. Sometimes when you're giving 21 days, 30 days, whether proper scrutiny is done or not, all these things have to be taken into consideration or have to be questioned rather. So human rights concern, mandatory death penalties raise human rights issue with arguments. When we have done these things earlier also. Does it or did it reduce rape cases? No. We need stricter implementation of existing laws. We need that political parties does not favor or do anything to protect the accused. All these things have to be done, right? So constitutional scrutiny. As the bill is pending presidential assent, it may face challenges under Article 21, right to life, and potential conflict with Supreme Court rulings favoring life imprisonment. Also, the contradiction with the central laws and how it also needs presidential assent, and how similar kind of bills in Andhra or Maharashtra are still a bill. They have not yet received presidential assent. All these things you have to talk about here. So again, in conclusion, you can talk about while Aparajita bill aims to address, its implementation faces critical challenges and potential suppression of rape reporting, human rights concern. All these are things which we have to ponder about, right? And that's how you can conclude this particular mains answer. So that's it for today's DNA. If you like the video, do like, share and subscribe. Please post your marks in the comment section. Take care, be blessed. See you soon.